You're listening to Four Things to Know, a WCCO daily news podcast.
Today is Thursday, January 8th. I'm Maria Lizzignoli.
And I'm Johnny Connor. Thanks for listening to Four Things to Know.
Our top story today. We're still following breaking news in the aftermath of a fatal shooting by an ICE agent yesterday. The woman killed in yesterday's shooting was 37-year-old Renee Good, a U.S. citizen and mother who just moved to Minnesota with her partner. As of this recording, a GoFundMe for her and her family has raised nearly $600,000. A memorial in South Minneapolis continues to grow where Good was shot and killed by an ICE agent yesterday. People have come by all night, all day, leaving flowers and candles. And many people who live in the area, like Ren Kleinfelter, are speaking out about what happened here.
I mean, these are our neighbors, and we didn't ask for these people to be here and to be, shooting people outside of our homes. So I think it's just a really community feeling of anger.
We're also learning more about the ICE agent who fired the deadly shot. CBS has confirmed he was a member of the Special Response Team. That's a trained tactical unit within ICE enforcement and removal operations. He was also involved in an incident back on June 17th in Bloomington. He was trying to take a man into custody when the officer broke a rear window and reached inside the car. That's when the driver took off, dragging the agent about 100 yards. We are working to learn more about that incident and the officer, but right now, here's what we know as tensions continue to rise.
We are committed to showing up in community, in nonviolence, in cooperation with each other. We are not here to attack. We are not here to provoke. We are here to prevent, and we are here to keep our neighbors safe.
That was Beth Gendler with Minnesota Democracy Defense. This early morning protest today was over at the Whipple Federal Building at Fort Snelling. Our cameras were there as a standoff between law enforcement and protesters began. Things escalated quickly, with multiple people being taken away in handcuffs. Chemical irritants were also deployed. Our Frankie McLister was out there all day. This is his report from noon.
A group gathered at 7 a.m. attempting to block all three entrances to the federal immigration court. That's when it appeared that folks were coming into work here at the federal immigration court. It was a super dynamic scene that was met with counter protesters, tear gas, and more. And we did witness 4 community members leaving with handcuffs on, but were unsure of the reasoning.
Peace and love and nonviolence is the only way that this is going to change, but that has to be accompanied by presence and action and vocal dismay.
Number 2, we're continuing to get updates from state leaders on the shooting. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz gave a press conference today in Blaine, and our Esme Murphy was there.
The big headline here is this. The feds have taken over the complete investigation of this matter. The feds have taken over this investigation. Initially, the VCA, the state of Minnesota, was asked to be part of this investigation, but in fact, the feds apparently have taken it all over. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz clearly not happy about that. He said that Kristi Noem, the Secretary of Homeland Security, has already made up her mind that she's going to be judge, jury, and executioner. Let's hear what the governor had to say about this.
I think it's clear to everyone as they saw this that it feels now that Minnesota has been taken out of the investigation. It feels very, very difficult that we will get a fair outcome.
An extraordinary statement from Governor Tim Walz, who's saying that right now, the way this investigation is set up, there will not be a fair outcome because the feds are in charge and they have already made up their decision about what happened yesterday. I can tell you that I did ask the governor if he had heard from President Trump. He has not. He has spoken to Secretary Noem yesterday, but he did say this to President Trump. He said, quote, "Leave Minnesota alone." And then at the end, he was very emotional as he said that Minnesota is needed to hold the line on democracy, that nothing less than holding the line on democracy is at stake here. And he also had this to say to the president. He said, if the problem is with him, in other words, it's no secret that the president and Governor Walz have differing views of each other, and the president, they don't really like each other, I think it's fair to say. What the governor said was, hey, I'm already out of this. He dropped out of the governor's race on Monday. He said, I'm out of this. Leave Minnesota alone. And then also he said, and he begged Minnesotans. He thanked them for the peaceful protests that we saw last night, but he also repeatedly begged protesters to not give what he says the federal government wants, and that's violence, because that will only escalate the situation. But again, the big headline here is that this was supposed to be a joint investigation between the feds and the state of Minnesota, the BCA. It is no longer. Sometime in the past 12 hours, Minnesota has been removed from the investigation, and Governor Tim Walz here saying that that means this will not be a fair outcome in this investigation.
Number 3, Vice President JD Vance addressed the nation today. Speaking from the White House during a regular press briefing, Vance said the ICE agent was defending himself when he shot and killed Renee Good.
But the simple fact is, what you see is what you get in this case. You have a woman who was trying to obstruct a legitimate law enforcement operation. Nobody debates that. You have a woman who aimed her car at a law enforcement officer and pressed on the accelerator. Nobody debates that. I can believe that her death is a tragedy, while also recognizing that it's a tragedy of her own making and a tragedy of the far left who has marshaled an entire movement, a lunatic fringe, against our law enforcement officers.
Number 4, clergy and faith leaders gathered together at 34th and Portland. That's the site of the shooting, where they called for peace and the immediate removal of ICE from Minnesota. Martha Bardwell is the lead pastor at Our Savior's Lutheran Church in South Minneapolis. She spoke about the tragedy of the killing and why Minneapolis Public Schools decided to cancel classes for the rest of the week.
All our children in Minneapolis, they're not catching the bus today. They're not going to school today, because we made the decision to keep them safe. To keep them safe. To keep them safe from our own government. How messed up is that? I had to have a conversation with my 8-year-old and my 11-year-old this morning about why school was canceled today. It's so wrong.
And now, here's more to know.
In this More to Know segment, we are going to be continuing to cover the deadly shooting by an ICE agent, as well as the continued immigration enforcement in our state. There were federal agents present at a local high school yesterday. At Roosevelt High School, ICE agents made their presence known around 3:30 yesterday. That's right when students were dismissed. John Lauritsen is covering this today. Take a listen.
Hey everyone, John Lauritsen here outside of Roosevelt High School in Minneapolis. Yesterday there was a clash between ICE agents here outside the school and what appeared to be students, possibly other employees here of the school. We talked with a student named Daniel. Daniel does not go to Roosevelt. He's a former Roosevelt student, but he was here during that chaos, and he actually got a lot of cell phone video of what happened. We're going to share that tonight on WCCO News. You see at one point somebody throw a snowball at an ICE agent, and you see an ICE agent spraying a chemical irritant into the crowd. In addition to speaking with Daniel and other students, we also talked with former Governor Jesse Ventura, who stopped by here today as well. Ventura said he graduated from Roosevelt, said he's been pretty disturbed by what he saw happen here yesterday and just the events in general. So coming up tonight on WCCO News, we'll hear from all of those people, former Governor Jesse Ventura and students here at Roosevelt High School about the past day or two, everything that's been going on here and throughout the city. So look for that story on WCCO News, and of course it's always streaming on CBS News Minnesota.
The Trump administration is calling ICE's operation in the Twin Cities its largest operation ever. And these federal agents aren't going anywhere despite that fatal shooting yesterday. And Maria, we are continuing to learn more about the victim.
That's right, Johnny. Our sister station in Kansas City talked to a woman who said Renee Good used to live in a house near Waldo, Kansas, with her partner, their dogs, and a young son. That neighbor said 2 older children visited routinely. That neighbor, Joan Rose, thought the family moved to Canada after the 2024 election.
I heard they were moving to Canada because of the politics here. I had thought about them sometimes, passing by their house thinking, oh, I hope they're okay in Canada. I hope that they're living, a good life and that they're worry-free. And this is just the opposite of that. So I'm just devastated for that whole family.
The neighbor said Good's parents also live in Kansas.
Conflicting messages and calls for peaceful protests. We're tracking how lawmakers are reacting to yesterday's killing. Here's what Governor Walz asked of Minnesotans yesterday.
And now we hear more political rhetoric. Enough. Enough is enough. And so to Minnesotans, don't take the bait. Do not take the bait. Do not allow them to deploy federal troops into here. Do not allow them to invoke the Insurrection Act. Do not allow them to declare martial law. Do not allow them to lie about the security and the decency of this state. And let's let this investigation play itself out. Let's make sure we protect our neighbors. I encourage you to use your First Amendment rights and all of your constitutional rights, but do so in a peaceful manner.
The governor issued a warning order to prepare the National Guard yesterday. Walz did make it clear, though, he doesn't agree with the federal agency's narrative that the victim, quote, weaponized her vehicle to harm a federal agent. Governor Walz called the claims a, quote, propaganda machine. Meanwhile, Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem has a different message.
It's very clear that this individual was harassing and impeding law enforcement operations. Our officer followed his training, did exactly what he's been taught to do in that situation, and took actions to defend himself.
WCCO has looked at the Department of Homeland Security policy on use of force. That policy statement includes general principles like showing respect for human life and being trained in de-escalation techniques. When it comes to deadly force, the policy says it must be objectively reasonable in light of the facts and circumstances. Illinois Congresswoman Robin Kelly posted to social media yesterday stating she will be filing articles of impeachment against Secretary Noem. According to her post, Kelly says Noem has, quote, turned ICE into a rogue force. We will continue to follow this development.
It's not just Minneapolis that people are taking to the streets to use their voices. We are seeing protests across America following the shooting by an ICE agent. Today, we saw protests from San Francisco, New York City, Columbus, Ohio, and Orlando, Florida. Throughout these protests, the message is clear. They want ICE out of American cities. We're going to continue following this. You can follow the latest on our coverage on WCCO and WCCO.com. With Johnny Connor, I'm Maria Lizignoli. This has been 4 Things to Know. We're here with the news you need every weekday afternoon by 3 o'clock.
Listen to 4 Things to Know, a WCCO daily news podcast, wherever you get your podcasts.